Hello! So a few of you have been asking me how I come up with some of my arrangements and what are the processes that I use in order to arrange a piece of music. So I thought I would try to do a sort of quick live arranging session of a particular piece so that maybe you can follow along with the processes. It's not going to be so much a tutorial in this is where you place your fingers, this is how you play, because at the minute I don't actually know quite what I'm going to do. Full disclosure, I do know this tune. It's a tune I've known for a very long time, so it's not as though I'm coming to it completely blind, but it's also not a piece I've particularly played a lot. I've certainly never performed this piece and I've never written anything down. So I thought it was it would be a good exercise to use this one. It's also a well-known tune, so hopefully you'll all recognise it. So the piece I've chosen is Down by the Salley Gardens. It's an absolutely beautiful tune. So yeah, let's have a go. I'm going to play it in C major. I quite like arranging in C major. But you could also play it in any other key that you like if you're playing it with a fiddle player or a whistle player or anything. It's very flexible. So let's play the tune and then I'll have a think about what I might do. Already starting to think about grace notes. Okay. So that's our melody. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed I was completely inconsistent with my fingering. Hopefully it was logical, but because I don't really know where I'm going, I don't really know what my fingering is going to be, and that's okay. You can also change the fingering mid-piece, as long as you keep reasonably good technique and remember to place in advance. Fingering is very fungible. There's lots and lots of different ways to finger a piece. I often write down suggestions, but again, they're only ever suggestions because there's often many ways which equally is correct, and it just depends what you're most comfortable with. So if I were going to perform this piece, a thing I quite like to do is just to start with the melody. Not give away all the information at once, just start by enjoying this melody. Folk melodies in particular are often so beautiful, you often don't need much more than that. So let's have a go and see where we end up. So I might add some grace notes. And I might decorate that final C maybe with another C in harmonics, so you get that kind of doubled effect. So I could do it with all of the notes. I'm not sure I like that as much. Add some harmony. I don't think I'm quite ready for harmony. So okay, so grace notes. No, I think I will just leave it there and not double it. And I'm suddenly feeling the need for a little bit more. Just maybe one extra line. I could do the whole melody as is and use the resonance of the harp. The harp is such a resonant instrument that you often don't need a lot of accompaniment. It will accompany itself if you listen. All of these notes resounding at the same time, which is providing its own accompaniment in a way. So again, the way you play it could depend on the space you're playing in. If you're playing in a big resonant hall, you should maybe just enjoy those acoustics and keep it very simple at the beginning. If you go straight in with massive arpeggios, it might get very, very muddy. Save those for later, or a smaller venue. So again, we're straight into the problem of, well, one arrangement might fit one place but not another. So just to bear that in mind, that nothing is ever fixed. So after I've done the first couple of lines, I feel like I'd quite like to add something very simple in the left hand. So I think just one note. And then okay, something like that. I could add a suspension at the end. I could add a chord in the middle here. Maybe the suspension's too much for the beginning. And I could keep going. I love moving in scales in my left hand. I could use that B before. And then keep the left hand for that. I could use a suspension. I could also just leave it there, which sounds unfinished, but that's sort of the point, because I've only just started, so I clearly haven't finished the piece. Or I could resolve it. Or I could use that doubling that I talked about earlier. Oh, I like that. I might use that. So far we have simple melody with some grace notes, unaccompanied. Do that again. Maybe change rhythm a bit. Quite like that suspension. Time will tell if I keep that, because again, I wouldn't just play it once. I'd play it over and over and over again, and eventually kind of settle into something that I thought worked the best. And when I tend to write things down, I try and sort of distill what I think are my favourite ideas. But again, I might not always play it like that. I might make a mistake and pretend that I meant it. So again, not ever fixed. So after that, I think it needs a bit more body. Okay, so we've been up here. It's been very simple, very beautiful, very delicate, and not at all hard to play. Hard to play is not the point. Sounding nice is the point. Easy to remember is part of the point, because I hate using sheet music when I'm performing. So easy to remember is nice and helpful. So again, I tend to stick to quite simple shapes of chords, or at least know what my chords are. I'll talk about that a bit later on. At least know which chords I'm attempting to play or play in versions of. That helps me to remember if I do something more complicated than a root position chord. So maybe now I might go into a more standard 1-5-8 pattern in the left hand. You could finish that with, if you wanted to round off that bar. You could fill out the chords, so just filling out that C chord, maybe in the repeat. Oh, no, so that should be G. So again, you might choose in the moment. I might choose in the moment that, oh yeah, I really want to do that, or might want to not use the third degree of the chord. For the music theorist among you, I might just want to keep it an open fifth chord, depending on mood. So then the second half, I might move down, again, keeping this slightly richer. Oh, I like using that shape there. I could do a straightforward arpeggio, but I really like a more mysterious sound of using the 9. Now, I know from experience that if I use the same shape on that E, it is not going to work unless I use an F sharp. I couldn't really explain how I know that instinctively because I know how the harmony works. Explaining why that is the case isn't really something I wanted to get into here. So that leaves me 2 options. I can either keep the same shape, but that will require a lever change. I can keep the same shape and use the one I preferred less. Or I could use that shape there and then that shape there. So there's 3 different options. I think I'm going to use the F sharp because I really like that, and we're going to use an F natural later, and I really love that contrast. But again, if you're not comfortable with lever changes, it's absolutely fine. Nobody will probably notice if you do a different shape. Or you could even just do... You don't have to extend that arpeggio at all. Absolutely not required. I'm just thinking through what I might do. So let's try that with the F sharp for that middle section. And I would almost certainly use a suspension there because the tension is building. And I could lead back to the next section by continuing that rise and using an inverted G chord. So let's try that whole section and see what we think. So not filling in the chords this first time. Maybe I do want to do that. Filling them in a bit. So I could roll that chord for a little bit more punctuation. Or I could continue to arpeggiate them. And here, I could go back to the C, or I could go to the A for a bit of a change. So again, I might choose to change the harmony slightly. Every time so far I've gone to the C at the end of that phrase. I might choose to, having established that as a pattern, sort of surprise the audience a little bit with a, ooh, A minor. Again, might be on context. Maybe I'd save that for the very final verse. So options. Again, I haven't written this down yet, so I'm not quite sure where it's going to settle. But as you see, even if I do write it down, it's not necessarily fixed. So there's different options. So having done something in the mid-range, I might think, okay, it's maybe time, let's use the bass strings. If you have them, if you have a small harp, you might want to use some of these ideas. So I'm going to I've had a lot of movement, So now I'm going to try something very simple. So big open chords. And again, this would work here. I have to move down, but I can, so I will. So I might... and I could complete that G chord with a B, but I think I'm not going to. I think I'm going to use octaves where possible and fifths. Filling that one out because I think it's a little thin otherwise. And again, here I could go to the A, but then I have to go back to the F. I'm not 100% convinced by that. Personal taste. I could use this suspension here. I could use a joining note. I've done a C. If I had a bottom A, I could keep going down. I don't have a bottom A, so I could move up. Maybe introduce more movement with a roll. So I might just keep it really simple and not fill out too many of those chords, because the bass of the harp is super, super resonant and you don't want too much mud. If I were doing that idea up here, I might fill them out more. I'd have to play with it and see what I thought. And again, everybody's harp is different. It might sound beautiful on your harp and not on mine, or beautiful on my harp and not on yours. Again, every instrument is different. And again, some playing techniques will sound lovely on really, really bright harps that don't work as well on mine. Mine's a very mellow harp, so my bass I mustn't overdo because it will just muddy everything up. So having gone down, I might then think, okay, I'll come back up again. A bit of a change of pace. One thing I really like doing in arrangements is just taking a chord and moving a note and seeing what happens, or playing a scale and seeing what happens. Sometimes you come up with these beautiful things that really work, and sometimes it doesn't work at all. So we're going to see what happens. I'm going to just move my bottom note down. Oh, I don't like that. Why does that not work? Why don't I particularly like that? Because I'm using sort of an A -7 chord. I don't think that really works. So again, I was talking about knowing what chords I was playing at the beginning. I know that I want a C. There I know I want a G chord. Before I've used an F chord here. So if I want to keep going down, I need to make sure I'm playing an F chord. Hopefully that makes sense. So I have C, G, B, G, and then I move that whole shape down to play F, A, F. Does it work if I keep going? Yeah, it doesn't not work. Because I'm outlining a C chord, which is what I was playing before. Ending on that C. So it doesn't not work. I've got this nice going down and coming back up sequence, which I quite like that. I might fill out the right hand. Let's try just stick some seconds in, some suspensions, see what happens. Again, a thing I often do. Sometimes you'll end up with beautiful effects and sometimes not so much. So let's see what happens. I feel I have to resolve. It's almost got that sort of close harmony choir feel going on. Can you imagine all the underneath parts going, ooh. I was going to come back up. Yeah, if I do a suspension there, I have to do a kind of cheesy, getting very choral. Maybe I'll not do that. Might just end on an open fifth. And then I might do that again. Now, do I want to keep... Oh, I like that. Do I want to come up or down? And again, I might use an F sharp there. What was I doing? Yes. I've suddenly taken the suspensions away. Maybe I'd done them enough. Maybe my brain was tired of the suspensions, so maybe I might do them for half of it, for the first bit, not the second bit, or the other way around. When I play it through a few more times, I'll probably settle on one or the other. So let's do the end of that. Again, I could end there. Could end there, and then do a nice simple, or even just a coda. Maybe I don't want to repeat it again. And again, maybe I'd end on an arpeggio, or maybe an open fifth. That was super quick, but hopefully it just gives you an indication of what I might be thinking whilst I'm arranging. Again, I do know this melody. I haven't just learnt it, and I'm not sort of magically coming up with this out of absolutely nowhere. But yeah, so I'm going to have a go at playing the whole thing now and showing you the whole piece. Just, again, I was aiming for a sort of folky feel, a sort of more traditional arrangement. Obviously, I could have opted for something very avant-garde or maybe even a jazz style. But for this, I thought I'd keep it fairly simple. Of course, simple can be very, very pretty. So let's try and play the whole piece and see what happens.